Spencer, an attorney from Seattle, and her husband, Dennis Forsythe, are here today. And I'd like to acknowledge Elaine's wisdom and generosity in establishing the award, along with her brother, Robert. Please help me welcome Elaine and Dennis today. So the award is chosen each year from nominations that come in, and there's a few qualifications. They must have made a significant contribution that affects, influences, or advances ecological and economic stability of family farms in the state of Iowa, a record of accomplishment in research, technical or practical advancement, or education, and a long-standing commitment to sustainability. And the winners are chosen by award selection committee, which this year included Elaine Spencer, Kathy Kling, Aaron Haley Lehman, Keith Somerville, and Fred Kirschman, some of who are in the audience. And there's a $1,000 check that goes along with the award. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce Wendy Winterstein, Dean of the ISU College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, who will present the first award.
When Mark Rasmussen asked me to present the award today to my old friends, Dave and Corrine Williams, I was deeply moved and very happy to accept the opportunity. I know that there are dozens of you in the audience that would have hand wrestled me for this honor, because Dave and Corrine are two individuals that have a reputation in Iowa for truly being human beings, for individuals that care deeply about agriculture, about the sustainability of agriculture, and the sustainability of the community that they live in. And they've demonstrated their commitment to all of us in so many ways over and over again. So thank you again for letting me get to talk about them just a little bit. So some details about these two very special individuals. As I think about David Williams, I think about the time that we spent on the Leopold Center Advisory Board together, and we had many interesting experiences, but I will not share all of those. Dave is a sixth-generation family farmer in Page County, and again, strongly committed to preserving natural resources. Dave won in 1996 the Floyd Andre Award from the College of Ag and Life Sciences for significant impact on Iowa agriculture and outstanding contributions to production agriculture and agricultural business. He served on the ISU Alumni Association Board. And in 2000, he started his service on the Leopold Center Advisory Board and served on that board from 1993 to 2002. Dave was the founding member and first president of the Wallace Foundation for Rural Research and Development at the ISU Armstrong Research Farm near Lewis, an organization that was truly committed to being a facilitator of change in rural communities for the sustainability of agriculture and communities. In 2001 and 2002, he helped Dean Ross, Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at that point, serve on a committee as we addressed critical issues related to budget and priorities and how we would strengthen the college. In 1995, David was member of the Iowa Environmental Council Organizing Committee. And if you think back to that time, David was sure that there was a way to bring agricultural interest and environmental interest together to address the critical issues, again, of sustainability. He served on the council's board of directors from 1992 to 2000 and is now an ex officio member. Well, Dave began farming with his father and brother, and 60 years ago, the couple, Dave and Corrine, purchased some additional farmland of their own. They grew corn, soybeans, raised hogs, ran a cow-calf operation, and they've now turned their operation over to their son Bruce and grandson Aaron, who's the sixth generation to farm the land. The Williamsons have practiced no-till for over 20 years. Their farm has terraces and cover crops, which they have added just 4 years ago. But it's a beautiful farm to behold and really is a physical embodiment of their beliefs. The Williams are recipients of the National Cattlemen's Association Environmental Stewardship Award, the Practical Farmers of Iowa Sustainable Agricultural Achievement Award, and Dave has testified to Congress on the behalf of many issues related to sustainable agriculture. Corinne has been an active farm partner and a community leader in her own right, often taking the opportunity to champion the importance of community well-being, church and school vitality to rural life viability. They host numerous visitors and delegations to their farm to showcase their sustainable operations, and they're active in their local church, community theater, and fundraising for a new community nursing home. Two of my good friends, Paul Astley and Maynard Hoberg, and Jim Penny, nominated Dave and Corinne for this wonderful award. Would you please join me at the stage? Yes.
Dave and I have been married for 84 years. No. 64! 64! You can tell I'm nervous. Together we've raised 5 children, 4 sons and 1 daughter. We're very proud of them. All of them are college graduates. That table there is most of all of them.
Stand up, please.
I was a stay-at-home mom, so I was available to help Dave whenever he needed it. I did outside stuff to help him. We have had hogs and cattle, and I helped with livestock things. I never was a tractor driver. But I helped move and sort the hogs, and I drove the pickup while Dave threw out small hay bales to check the newborn calves and their mothers in the calving pasture. I was born on a small farm in southwest Iowa and loved growing up in the country. I've always supported Dave when it came to taking good care of our land. We are lucky that we have been together for 64 years.
Wendy, thanks. I want to make a comment to Wendy here also, but I want to thank the Spencer family, Elaine. And,
Be closer to the mic.
okay, is this better? Can you hear me now? Yep. I just wanted to comment, thank you, the Spencer family for doing this. And Elaine's here today, and her brother Robert, who graduated in the 70s, is that right? And I think it's a neat that they took the opportunity to do this. I have to say that it's the first time I've done a lot of volunteer things, and it's the first time I ever got, a dollar amount. And Wendy, I was just going to say, you talked about over the years, and I think I've been involved with it since almost you've been here at Iowa State. Well, one of the things that happened I thought was quite interesting, she said there were several, Neil Hamilton, who I saw in the room, and Wendy and myself were invited to visit with Dr. Jeske one day, and that turned out to be a very, very interesting.
More later.
Get close to the mic.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to speak to this many people today, I guess. Anyway, Corinne and I were both surprised and honored to get this award. We really were. And we're proud of the fact that we did grow up on a farm, and the farm has been good to us. Our 5 children, when they all started college, had money in the bank to put them through college. And I think part of this success of a profit comes from diversified agriculture. We've always had swine and cattle. I wanted to kind of take you on 3 scenarios that I did in the last 4 or 5 years. The first one was, I think, This is 2007. Okay, it was 2005. My wife and I happened to go to the Mississippi River and back twice that year. We live in just lacking one corner of the Southwest County, so we went back and forth twice. The second thing we did, and one day I said to Karine, I said, you know, I've always wanted to go up into that Raccoon River watershed area, so we took off. And the second and third day we spent there, and we must have crossed every bridge that went across the Raccoon River. And so I want to comment a little bit on each one of these. And the third one is the farm that I grew up on in Page County. And my father, Iowa State graduate, was an extension director, came back to the farm and farmed, and he was one of the first, I know in our part of the state, that ever built a terrace. And I know not many of you were raised with horses, but he built those terraces with horses and a slip scraper. And since then, our farm is, everything is terraced. And sometime in the 80s, I'm not sure, I should have looked this up, our farm belonged to my father, that my brother Don and I farmed. We were named by the District Soil Commission the state farm in Iowa, so we're proud of that. And to this day, we've still done a good job of taking care of the farm. I'll start in the back, one of the three comments on. Yeah, Page County has some of the best conservation in the state. We're either first or second in number of terraces. And to get to apply some terraces or something, there's a 3-year waiting list. And so I'm very, very proud of that part. And somebody here might remember George Annan, who was on the state conservation. George Annan used to say that when I left Page County and drove to Des Moines, when I left Page County, I'd already seen more conservation practice than I would see between here and Des Moines. Okay, so just back a little bit to our farm. I said we've always practiced good conservation. Okay, then our trip across Iowa, which I've done other times, but this time one of them was on a bus, so I had time to view things. And both of them were done in the late May, early June. And it's fascinating to see the quality of the land they have somewhat compared to us, and I would say the same about northern Iowa. But anyway, I was one of the things that disturbed me in all these cases was, especially in eastern Iowa, and around, some of you know that area around the Iowa City area, they're farming some pretty steep land with not a heck of a lot of conservation practice. And then again, what surprised me in that really, really good land over there, the lays beautiful, there might be straight rows for 1/2 to 3/4 of a mile up and down the road, up and down their corn rows with all, and so I was disappointed in that. The thing about the trip up to the 3 counties in the Raccoon River watershed was very interesting. I saw some good things and I saw some bad things. I think it was the year of, I think it was 2016. Anyway, we'd had a wet spring, and so the corn was just barely up, and a lot of the beans hadn't been planted. So, and one of the really good things I thought about that year was that by the fact that we had this wet year, most of the beans had been no-tilled. This was super. I was pleased to see this. But I saw the same things there I saw in eastern Iowa and in our county. I saw end rows up and down the hill. I saw, at that time, we weren't seeing much no-till in those part of the states. And then I saw in both in our county and in the Raccoon River, farmers very different. Some of them super good, some not so good. I saw, looked like they'd hung the planter or the disc right over the river, you know, so they weren't really concerned about that. And we see that same thing in Iowa, in our county. And in our county, we have from 5 to 30 tons of soil loss. And I put a dollar figure on that, I think. I don't know why I didn't remember that. So I'll see if it isn't here. But anyway, good black soil costs from $30 to $40 a ton. And there's places in our county, I know there's some 40-ton losses every year. So I'm skipping around here a little bit. Is Mike Duffy here today? I thought he might be here today. Mike Duffy came to our county extension, and it had to be 30, 40 years ago, and introduced us to sustainable agriculture. It was a term not being used. And then later on, as we did the things on our farm, and I saw the things being done on our research farm, I realized that how my father took care of the farm is what we're calling sustainable agriculture. And I really mean that. He's very dedicated. This is the 15th year of the Spencer Award. And the comment I would make is that everyone that was a full-time farmer was diversified and had hogs and cattle. And I think this has always been a key to its success for agriculture, as well as taking care of the land. A couple of things. I was at the soil health meeting, I think 3 weeks ago. I was very impressed with the meeting. I'm very, very excited about soil health. I really believe that this is something that's going to keep a lot of soil on the land. And then some thoughts and concerns that I've had. I think everybody, or most everybody, realizes the 1985 Farm Bill requires that you have a farm plan and you have to have a conservation plan. And I fault the state, NRC, International, that we don't follow through and a penalty or something. And I really believe this is what I'm going to say. I don't think there's more than 30% of the farms in my county, in those 3 areas I went, that could qualify for conservation compliance. One of the things I think ought to happen, we ought to put a dollar value on this soil that's lost, and we have these heavy rains. I think it would startle everybody. And my idea of doing this is that the NRCS office would have their technicians go out after a big rain and make an estimate, basically compile and show a state dollar loss. I'm about done. Yeah, I am. Yeah, a couple of other things I want to say. I'm disappointed that our state of Iowa didn't go through, and the people in Iowa voted 3/8% for conservation, and the administration, our governor, and a lot, and then lobby from the commodity groups and the Iowa legislature should make this happen. It should be more of a priority. I'm also very disappointed about, even though I'm seeing some farmers brag about what's happening to the EPA, I think it's going to be devastating if they carry through with it. Then I'd just like to close with a couple of little things. I first heard who Aldo Leopold was when my oldest son was a forestry graduate in northern Arizona. And he sent me back a copy of a paper he got. He got an A+ on the grade, but at the bottom of the paper he said, Aldo Leopold had been very proud of you. So that was my first time. That was in '75, something like that. So that was kind of neat. I just have two things that I want to kind of close with. And one of these, Jerry Hatfield wrote a full-page article called Who Speaks for the Soil in 2014. I think this was probably in the alumni, in the Leopold letter, but I'm not going to talk about it. One of his first things he said, soil is one of the most precious resources we have, yet we ignore its value and consider soil a renewable resource that will always be there for us. And then Jerry, in closing, said, we should all be a voice for the soil. It is our responsibility and our duty to future generations to enhance this resource over our lifetime. And I appreciate having a chance to make comments to that. And I want to applaud the Spencer family for the heritage that they will carry forward with this.
Okay, and to do our second award today is Gayle Hickman. He's a Leopold Center Advisory Board member representing Practical Farmers of Iowa. Gayle?
Thank you, Mark. The 2017 Spencer Award goes to Tom Casper, who is a research scientist with the USDA Agricultural Research Service at the National Laboratory for Agriculture and the Environment. A fact may be firmly stated that Tom has made cover crops one of the focus of his research career. He's developed cover crops as a mainstream economical conservation practice which is capable of preventing soil erosion and reducing nutrient loading into the groundwater, streams, and the rivers. His contributions can be seen in the recommendations of the state Iowa Nutrient Reduction Strategy, which contains examples of land use scenarios where all corn, soybean rotated acres, and continuous corn acres include cover crop plantings. He is a key cover crop contact person for NRCS. He has spoken about cover crops at numerous educational events, conferences, and field days. In his career, he has worked with SARE, Practical Farmers of Iowa, the Leopold Center, to fine-tune the recommendations for farmers who want to take the plunge in cover crops. He has been publishing and making presentations on cover crops in Iowa for more than 20 years and was the founder of the Midwest Cover Crops Council. Tom has written extension fact sheets, help with Midwest Cover Crop Field Guide, and Managing Cover Crop Profitability Handbook. Notably, he has gone the extra mile to translate his research results into a form readily accessible to the growers. A letter from Purdue University about Tom said, "Dr. Casper exemplifies qualities we want to honor in career scientists. That of excellent science, outstanding continuous service to society, unselfish giving of time and talent to the profession and to the broader community, and also a drive and commitment to us for opportunities to have a positive impact on agriculture and the environment." In one of the nomination notes, it has stated that Tom is no Pollyanna. He takes care to point out and evaluate the possible pitfalls of cover crops. That has allowed him to develop appropriate management practices to overcome the obstacles that farmers may encounter in adding cover crops to their operations. Tom was nominated by USDA scientist Matt Baker, a microbiologist at the USDA Reef Facility in Peoria, Illinois. As stated in the Spencer's thought process, it is believed that the obligation of each generation is to leave the world a better and healthier place for the next generation. Tom, congratulations on helping accomplish the Spencer's Challenge, and congratulations on the 2017 Spencer Award.
I'm deeply honored and humbled to receive this award. I'd like to thank the Spencer family for their support of the award and their support of sustainable agriculture. I'd also like to thank the Leopold Center for their support of my cover crop research over the years and their dedication to sustainable agriculture in Iowa. And as is often the case with awards like this, where other people are doing most of the work for you, or with you, or together with, I'd like to thank my family and my co-workers with USDA, ARS, and Iowa State University, without whom it wouldn't have been possible. I've been very fortunate to work on something that I truly believe in and feel good about, and that's soil and water conservation. Cover crops may not be the answer to all of our problems, and they are just one tool or practice that we can use to protect and preserve soil and water. But to see the benefits of cover crops, you have to take a long-term perspective. But we know from the work that myself and other people have done that cover crops can immediately reduce erosion and immediately reduce nutrient loss to water and streams. And we also know that over time they're going to improve soil health substantially. I would argue, however, that we have not fully reached the full potential of cover crops to improve the sustainability of agriculture. And there's three reasons why I say this. First, and you can argue about the different estimates, we only use cover crops on about 2.6% of our corn and soybean acres in Iowa. This is an estimate that people can argue about one way or the other, but we know from driving around that there aren't many more than that, if at all. Second, we've never had any substantial plant breeding efforts to improve cover crops. What we're using now for cover crops are just plant species that are directly off the shelf of seed companies that have never been bred to be cover crops. So I think we have a lot of potential there. One of the reasons for this is because there's no money to be made growing cover crop seed or breeding for cover crops. So we have to change that. And lastly, we've just begun to study and understand how adding cover crops to corn and soybean rotations can improve and preserve biological activity in our soils. Everything from microbes to earthworms. And that's because they're filling in that gap between soybean or corn maturity and planting the next year, which is 5 to 7 months without living plants in our soils. So there's a lot of work and exploration to be done, both by farmers and researchers. And I would like to end with a quote from Aldo Leopold, which I've paraphrased a little bit. But successful conservation requires acknowledgement of our connection to the land and our respectful use of land and water for spiritual, aesthetic, and economic reasons. And I think personally we've been forgetting about the spiritual and aesthetic reasons and maybe a little bit too much on the economics. Thank you very much and enjoy the conference.
I'd like to offer my congratulations to the award winners, and again, thank the Spencer family for endowing this award. And I'd like to put everybody on notice that the nominations for next year will soon be coming out, so stay tuned. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Melissa.
All right. Well, you're not here to listen to me talk. But I am really pleased to offer up our next award presentation. About this time, about a year ago, Dennis and Betty Keeney gave a donation to the Iowa Water Center. And with that, we were able to establish a student scholarship program for this conference here, which is wonderful to get our students here to the conference and meeting the professionals that they'll be working with once they graduate. Also, a wonderful idea that Dennis and Betty had was to hold an essay contest for high school students. And see what we could get to here to inspire them with to come up with their ideas about water. And so this year the prompt for our students was, hold please. Donald knows exactly what it is, right, Donald? Think of a body of water you are familiar with. Why are places like this worth protecting? And so that's the question we asked of our high school students. We got 13 entries, and they were wonderful. They were incredible. If you're ever wondering about the future of our youth, don't be worried, because these children, young adults, presented really wonderful things. We had a panel of judges, Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Bill Northey, Natural Resources Conservation Service Public Affairs Specialist Laura Kroll, and Dennis and Betty Keeney as well, and I also submitted my ratings for these as well. So being high school students, only one of our award winners was able to make it today, but conveniently it was our first place award winner, and we were so taken with Donald's essay that we've asked Donald to say a few words. So before Donald takes the stage, our top 4 entries, our honorable mention, went to Maggie Lagenfeld from Harlan. Third place went to Tyler Buman, also from Harlan. Second place went to Anna Colm from Cedar Rapids. And first place was awarded to Donnell G from Johnston, Iowa, who will make some comments for us right now.
As she said, my name is Donnell G, and I have never been married. But I would like to thank Dr. Dennis and Betty Keeney for making this possible. Am I close enough to the microphone, or can I step back? This good? All right. So thank you very much for having the Spirit of the Essay Water Contest and inviting me to speak. As we all know, the need to address problems dealing with water is increasing. And because all of you know more about this than I do, I'm not going to talk about that. A topic that is important to the future of water that I am qualified to talk about is young people. I'm seeing quite a few here today, which is very good. I think, I'm not going to mention a number, but like 30 and under I consider young people, so there's a lot of them here. So when looking at my generation, even I can wonder, how can an interest in water issues be created so that we can effectively address the problems dealing with water that we face before we're in an even more dire situation than we are right now. It seems as if there's a lot of distractions and a lot of things that people in my generation especially are spending time on, like video games, pop culture, and other seemingly frivolous things. And so I think there are three major things that everyone here can do to impact the future generation of scientists and engineers with a focus on water. The first thing that is important for getting young people engaged in water issues is the protection of natural areas so that they can be used and enjoyed by future generations. Nature instills a sense of adventure in kids. It can inspire people, and by exploring it, people build skills and abilities they otherwise wouldn't have. Without accessible protected natural areas for recreation and observation of wildlife, the future of science and engineering is limited. For example, how can you expect a kid to be interested in preserving a creek when they've never really played in one? So the protection of these areas where people can get out and enjoy nature is vital. I would like to personally thank the City of Johnston, Mayor Paula Darenfield, they're not here, but Mayor Paula Darenfield and John Smits, because they helped protect the Beaver Creek Natural Resource Area, which I wrote my essay about, and has meant a lot to me. And so I think areas like that can mean a lot to kids all over. It's equally important that people actually get out into nature and enjoy these areas as a part of field days, for example, from Practical Farmers of Iowa. I've gone to multiple field days and really enjoyed that. Also through organizations like Boy Scouts and other ways, it's important that people get out and actually experience nature. The second important thing to get young people engaged is promoting that working in agriculture and on water issues is rewarding. I often hear people talk about the need to make agriculture more sexy. And some people even go so far to say that agriculture is sexy. And if someone can make ag sexy, more power to them. I think this phrase is very funny, and it's a really good way to get attention. But if people take that too seriously and that's all that's said, I think this phrase could be more of a detriment than a help to agriculture, because to try and compete with all the things that society deems as sexy and make agriculture one of them is a very challenging, if not impossible, task. I think it is more important to follow that up with focusing on how agriculture and water issues is fulfilling, and working on it long term is fulfilling, because I think it is in my 18 years of life. But by emphasizing the positive impact that focusing on water issues can have on the world, rather than focusing on what agriculture can do for you, I think more young people will be attracted to long-term careers in water and agriculture. And the final important thing for bringing more young people into agriculture is mentorship. I've been very lucky to be in contact with many intelligent and helpful people throughout my years in high school, and even before that, who sat down and talked with me about agricultural issues. They walked me through their labs and got me interested in applying myself to solving issues in water and agriculture. I think deliberate attempts at mentorship can help young people see a meaningful career path in an area that may not have otherwise seemed possible. Several people who have been mentors to me are here today, and I'd like to thank them. I think Tony Lewesser from the Iowa Flood Center is here somewhere. He's talked with me a lot about possible careers and walked me through some very cool hydraulic labs in Iowa. Andy Zaire is here from Iowa State. He's helped me figure out the next steps in my career towards agriculture, which I really appreciate. Also, Dr. Cruz from Iowa State has sat down and talked with me. Dr. Just from Iowa, Pat Brody from RDG, people at the World Food Prize, for example, Catherine Svoboda and others have been very, very helpful. Listing names is always very risky. If I forgot somebody, I'm sorry. And if I had the wrong title for somebody, I'm sorry. But I'd just like to thank you very much for all the help that I've gotten. So in summary, I think that by protecting areas where people can see and enjoy nature and encouraging them to do so, by promoting the ability of agriculture to provide a long-term fulfilling career, and by having good mentors, more dedicated young people will focus their abilities on solving the water issues in agriculture that we face. Thank you.
All right, before I have you all head out to run quick to your next breakout sessions that will begin at 1 p.m., I do want to mention that all of our award winners did receive a cash prize, and they'll also receive a copy of an anthology that has their work published in it. We do have some extra copies of that. So if anyone is interested, please let me know. And if you're interested in contributing toward the scholarship fund or toward the fund that is going to keep this essay contest going next year, please let me know as well. All right, that said, you have about 7 minutes to get all your networking done. So get to it. Thank you, everyone.